fame, fortune, and furious competition. If you've been surprised by the recent popularity of esports competitive video gaming, you are not alone. Thanks to streaming services like Twitch and YouTube, professional gaming has become a legitimate sport.
300-pound guys in his mother's basement, totally wrong.
Much like football and baseball, there are even elite celebrity gamers who draw a fan base that shows up, rocks its team's jerseys, and swarms arenas worldwide.
A $1 billion industry.
So join us for the next half hour as we take a deeper dive into this sensational world, the esports revolution.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Russell Haythorne.
And I'm Nick Rothschild. This is what we call an esports arena. And the one we're standing in is actually in the Denver metro area. Russell, it's gaining popularity by the day.
And it doesn't involve a court, a field, or even a ball, Nick. Well, maybe all of those things in a virtual sphere. This is a bold new world, attracting a new kind of competitor.
Next one, you're gonna do a wide lunge with a curl. So you can press up.
When you think of an athlete,
and press up.
Is this what comes to mind?
4.
Or do you think of something like this?
Literally getting chased by like 3 people.
If you aren't already aware, competitive gaming, or what's known as esports, is a booming phenomenon.
As your Overwatch League champion!
Crowning its first ever esports world champion, the London Spitfire. And a growing number of universities are even offering scholarships to competitive gamers. So let's press play on this esports phenomenon. To begin, we lock and load with the colleges. At DU and up at CSU, there are now both casual and competitive esports clubs.
It really should be considered a sport.
Clubs complete with team captains for different games and skill levels.
With every incoming freshman or first year class, we've grown, we've doubled, we've tripled.
And they socialize together. They'll play a game together and they'll stand up and go talk to each other in person. Oh, you're this person, you're that person.
It is certainly big business, inspiring new gaming centers like this one in Lakewood.
It's big enough to be called an arena. We have one in Philadelphia, one here in Denver.
James Love is the director of communications for Nerd Street Gamers.
I like to call it the biggest industry that nobody has heard of.
Blood.
He says these controller commandos exhibit uncanny reflexes and more.
It also takes a lot of focus. It takes breathing. So a lot of the training that goes into traditional sports translates to the training that esports athletes go through.
Just a little deeper at the bottom.
Even traditional athletic trainers like Brianna Phillips can appreciate the intensity of gaming.
There's definitely some skill involved within esports.
But she says the dedication, focus, and skills of traditional athletes versus gamers are night and day.
On a physical level, having to perform whatever sport it is, you can't really create that sitting down watching a screen. 1.
Athlete Natalie Anderson spends several hours a week in the gym.
This is what helps me continue to compete at the level that I enjoy doing.
4.
She argues the stakes are simply higher for traditional athletes.
Sort of run out of steam towards the end of the map
versus gamers.
I can certainly appreciate the skill it takes to master any, but I don't think that they're necessarily comparable in that you're not putting your body on the line. There's just that physical component of if I come and I'm not focused, I could have a serious accident or get hurt.
Esports is certainly changing the game and dispelling stereotypes.
300-pound guys in his mother's basement or something like that, totally wrong.
DU computer science chair Scott Luteniger says the intellectual abilities of esports athletes are undeniable.
What's called telescopic probing. If I do this, and then I do this, and I do that next, just like chess, multiple stages of what you are going to do. But unlike chess, you need to do it in a team.
For the professionals like Kate Culpepper,
I go by Tiny Kate.
It is about changing the culture.
Oh no, there's a guy down there.
She's breaking barriers. First, as a woman in esports.
I think there's definitely space in this esports kind of sphere, and we just have to make room for ourselves.
And second, beyond competing,
He's not leaving me any loot.
She's making a name for herself as an esports
You have to practice.
event organizer.
Big amateur open tournaments.
Tournaments that pay out huge purses, like golf.
Prize pools ranging from $500 to $10,000.
Really?
Yeah, and it's only going to get higher.
Just like every sport, you have the elites.
Higher you place, the more you earn.
Dude! The doors here are also open to the casual gamer.
You should.
$10 to play for 4 hours. A sport, a social club, whatever you may call it, becoming more mainstream and popular by the minute.
We're not physically exerting ourselves. That's pretty obvious. But I would say we have the competitiveness.
It's really a good way to make friends.
Our fun is on a computer. What's so wrong with that?
I can see.
Wow, Russell, this esports world certainly changing the game. I mean, all you got to do is look around to see how many young people are getting into competitive gaming.
Yeah, Nick, and the doors are also open to the casual gamer. It's just $10 to get in, and that gets you 4 hours of playing time, which of course could influence the casual gamer to ultimately become competitive.
And that's what we're seeing. Kids start off playing casually, but then, Russell, they realize they're good at this stuff and they want to develop those skills.
Yeah, that's right, Nick. And if you get good enough, I mean, really, the sky is the limit in terms of how far you can take this. In fact, you met someone at the University of Denver who did just that.
Yeah, man, he's a student athlete of a different sort, and he's making a name for himself in the esports world. Let's get it.
My go-to game right now is probably Rocket League, and my handle in there is Rainbow Raccoon.
Christian Antone's playing days started much like you might expect.
There was a neighbor who had a PlayStation, go over, play a few games, usually had a good time.
But it quickly blossomed into a passion beyond the occasional pickup game.
I was a huge fan of Pokemon. I believe it was Pokemon Pearl that I loved that game, played a ton of it.
He's now a competitive gamer for the University of Denver's Esports Club, where they often play other teams in games like Overwatch, which he compares to any sport happening on a live field.
Everybody has a different role that they can fill, or several different roles, and you can choose different heroes based on what your team needs at the time.
Although Christian describes himself as more of a nerd than a jock, his sport is certainly gaining respect.
What you can argue with is it's a task that you can improve with over time.
Which can pay off. Much like golf, the best players can score sponsorships and big purses at the end of tournaments.
The higher you place, the more you earn.
For Christian, whether he's making money as a gamer or in something related to gaming, the future is certainly bright.
I've had a large interest in artificial intelligence. Perhaps doing that for game development in the future could be a path for me. In the long term, I want to change the world.
Oh, Nick, we're back.
Oh, shoot.
I was crushing you on that.
We're not even playing the same game.
Oh, well then who's I'm... Oh, forget it. Anyway, by the way, I think a kid like that really could change the world.
Dude, if he isn't already, the DU esports team is already one of the most well-respected teams in the entire country. In fact, they just hosted the largest independent games expo in the Western United States back in May. It's called the DU Arcade, and they're going to host it again in the future, too.
That is awesome, and that's a perfect example of a college kid doing great things.
Yeah.
When we come back, how the high school world is changing in terms of esports. Welcome back. Well, how many times have you told your kids to put away the video games? Or for that matter, Nick, how many times have we told ourselves to do the same? Focus on work, focus on homework. Probably a bunch, right? But now kids actually have an excuse to keep playing.
Yo, it's an excuse I wish I had when I was a kid. Hey, Mom, I'm practicing down here. But as Jason Grenauer explains, CHSAA is looking to give current students more opportunities like that.
Right now is basically like a practice session.
But as you can see, we're not in a gym or on a field, but we are in a high school.
Because it's like for the first in Colorado, it kind of feels like we're starting something because obviously it's the first.
As of this fall, the Colorado High School Activity Association now recognizes esports as a competitive activity.
It's a platform that we are very excited about launching as a pilot.
This is where we compete. This is where we practice.
Schools will have structured teams that play certain video games against each other competitively online after school.
Arvada West may end up playing Vail. We might end up playing Lamar. We might end up playing Cherry Creek or Rawson Valley. We're right down the road.
CHSAA says the number of students who take part in gaming is already more than most of their major competitive sports.
They're in the top 5 participatory numbers of any activity that CHSAA would offer.
Colorado is now the 16th state with an organized competitive structure. Preseason, regular season, playoffs, even a state championship.
Are we promoting video games? Absolutely. But you know what? These kids are already playing these games. These kids are already there. They're already doing this stuff.
Games that have been chosen are about kids using critical thinking skills and team play and all of those things that would occur if you were part of a band program or if you were part of a football team or a basketball team.
Make sure we practice set champions instead of just going all over the place.
And by bringing it into the school environment, allowing students like Kevin Tran to be a part of something bigger at school.
It makes me feel like a lot more confident in like my abilities, even though I'm not as athletic as most others in the school.
Colorado's launch of its pilot of esports includes 50 schools to start, and the future could be even bigger.
I truly believe that esports as a competitive activity that we have it set right now will probably overtake the vast majority of the other activities and sports that will be out there as far as the numbers.
I'm Jason Grenauer, Denver7.
It'll be interesting to see how that pilot program turns out this year. Nick, I'm fascinated by this stuff, especially growing up here in Colorado. I mean, can you imagine a world where, say, more kids are involved in esports than a sport like soccer or football?
Sure would make my job a little bit different, right? But it is hard to imagine, but think about it. The interest is obviously there. The opportunity is increasing. So I think we're going to see a lot more kids on that stage behind us coming up real soon. Well, coming up after the break, let's take a trip in the Wayback Machine as we go back in time to a game that was probably coming out before all of these kids were even born. Our esports special goes back to the future next. Welcome back. Well, Russell, the video game world has evolved a little bit since I was a kid, but there are games I remember playing back when I was young, like Super Smash Brothers, that remain popular and are now becoming competitive.
Yeah, Nick, games that predate the internet and, well, you. On that list, Sean Toll shows us a game from back in the 90s, hint, hint, that is still smashing on and connecting to gamers everywhere.
It kind of blows the walls off of what you think fighting games are like.
We play Super Smash Brothers Melee. You can watch some of these guys out here, they're pressing buttons so fast you have no idea what they're doing.
In the back rooms of breweries and in conference rooms,
all story best of 3 for 3. Deal.
A group of friends come together.
If I win, you owe me $5.
To play some games.
I need Poliar and Womp versus Manfist the Captain.
But usually to be wired in, gamers don't need actual wires or old tube TVs.
We're playing the same miracle that they seem to put together from 2001.
You heard that right.
This game is going on 19 years old here soon.
That was sick, you guys.
But why does Super Smash Brothers Melee have a special following in the gaming community?
That's a hard question to answer.
Not really.
There's no online way to play this. Like, if you want to come and play it, you got to come and play in person, and that's what keeps the community so tight.
Mr. Freeze over Oddish Guy 2-1.
It's why they keep coming back after all these years.
You know, we're all sitting down, laughing, drinking beer and soda, and it's just having a good time. The competitive community has remained so strong that we're still able to draw in new players. We definitely have high schoolers in here that weren't born when the game came out.
Good luck.
Hi, down.
Have fun.
That personal connection has gone away with most games, but this one is fighting on one 8-minute match at a time.
You always have to establish that relationship with people, so I think that's what keeps people so tight.
A piece of nostalgia smashing on because of the bond players have with it and each other.
Clearly we got something unique going on with this game.
Sean Toll, Denver7.
Wow, Nick, it's crazy to think of just how, I don't know, archaic it was to, you know, take a controller and plug it into a gaming system.
Listen, Russell, this is why you need to connect with the kids, man. We know what's popular, we know what's hip, even though it's an older video game, but still, my point is, we know what's cool.
Yeah, clearly things have changed a lot since we were both kids. Coming up, where does it all go from here, and what you can expect locally?
All right, welcome back. So far, we've taken you through the past and the present of the esports world, but now it's time to mount our trusty steed and ride off into the future. And for that, we bring Russell back in. Russell, take us into the future.
Good girl.
She's a good llama.
She's pretty. Hey, when it comes to the future of esports, here's what we do know, Nick. It is going to be one heck of a ride.
The rise of esports is certain to continue. Worldwide, the numbers are staggering. Take a look at this. According to Business Insider, esports revenues grew from $696 million in 2017 to $1 billion this year, and a projected $1.7 billion by 2022. And that brings us to how esports intersect with traditional sports. Teams like the Rapids and the Broncos see a big future in the esports arena. Sean Toll has more.
Angle to take a shot from there.
You can't talk about the future of esports without
Into the back of the net.
talking about its future in the traditional sporting universe. And right here in our backyard, the Colorado Rapids see that as a huge asset.
That's it.
Joining a league started by Major League Soccer.
EMLS as the league within Major League Soccer was started in 2017 and 2018. So we'll be heading into our third season with EMLS.
DeBruyne, yes, boy!
So for the last 2 years, a player on the roster didn't take part on the pitch.
Our last 2 seasons, we worked with a player named Connor Buckley, and he was a great asset to the club.
We have 100 of the 81 plus Serie A upgrade packs.
But he was not centric to the soccer world, or more specifically, FIFA.
Well, hey!
Meaning they wanted a new player for the 2020 season.
If we have somebody that can come in and really compete from a FIFA gaming perspective, there's opportunity to go into EMLS, not only the League Series, but EMLS Cup, and then further on into that, into the FIFA World Cup.
And they wanted that player to be rooted in Colorado, a search that definitely took time.
You know, it's been probably about 4 or 5 months of conversations with players. We are getting down to the last bits of conversations with a few particularly really great players that we're excited about from the Colorado market.
The shot's on.
Enter Brandon Gonzalez.
I've been playing competitive FIFA for about 2 years now, and I've always been involved in the competitive scene, and I'm a Colorado native, so as soon as I saw there was a vacancy, I jumped on the opportunity.
A local kid.
I live like within 20 minutes.
Who's not exactly a slouch in the world of gaming.
My ranking right now is 111th on the Xbox console, so that's the console that I primarily play on, and that's a global ranking.
Gonzalez is a graduate of Columbine High School in Metro State, so he's clearly quite familiar with the guys he'll be sharing a uniform with, even if his arena is slightly different.
I always used to come to games and stuff like that, and even more so in my later years, you know, I've really loved just getting up close and personal, especially, you know, at Dick's Sporting Goods Park.
And he knows he has a lot to live up to.
It's an honor to be able to represent the club, you know, at this level. So, you know, I really want to prove that they made a good choice and get some good results.
And when he got that call from the organization, hearing he was the guy.
I'm very excited. You know, I've always been very passionate about football and the sport, and especially the Colorado Rapids. So to be able to have the opportunity to represent them is really a dream come true.
Now, Gonzalez does have a day job.
I do. I'm a teacher by trade. That's what I went to college for. I really love it, love working with kids, love impacting not only kids, but teachers alike and just people in general. That was really the main focus of why I got into teaching. So right now I'm just substituting, so it gives me the flexibility to be able to do this and teach at the same time.
He loves talking to the kids about his second job, but he does have something that gives it away before he even tells them.
I actually have a tattoo of a controller. That always gets brought up at one point or another with each class that I'm with, and then, you know, as soon as I tell them kind of the things that I do, they're really excited.
Ready to go for the second half.
He'll compete in all the EMLS events, as well as friendlies with opposing clubs. And there's really only one goal.
Goal for the season is to win, and that's it, always win.
He's put it away.
Winning is obviously always important in athletics, but there's a bigger role the Rapids see for this specialized player.
There's a lot of data that's driving this concept of how many people are engaged with the sport of soccer because they were introduced to it through the game. So it gives us an opportunity to let data drive our fan engagement and really kind of be that alternative style that's looking at the traditional sports market.
And they see this future to create a local brand that expands well beyond the state's borders.
You know, you don't have specific people watching from either one state, one nation. It's literally an international opportunity for us to engage.
I think it's important to keep it local in terms of, you know, really what that looks like for, what the Rapids are about. I know we have a lot of local homegrown talent as it is just on our team alone. So to add an esports athlete that, is along that same lines, I think that's, very important for the community and everyone involved.
And Gonzalez knows the future of esports is something he can really play a role in with this new gig.
Every day people watch sports on a regular basis, like the NFL, NBA, kind of things like that. And you're really watching because not only you have a passion for the sport, but you also have an admiration of people being able to do some of the things that you maybe did earlier in life at the highest level possible. And I think esports should be, discussed in the same breath as one of those kind of things.
And while that growth may not be rapid,
Back to Kai Kamara.
all involved hope esports helps make the Rapids recognizable worldwide, and altering how they share their brand, well, at least a little.
It's amazing. I wouldn't say it's necessarily changing what we do, but it's another piece of what we're looking at from a brand and a club and really a culture perspective.
They score at the opposite end.
They're not the first and won't be the last franchise to do so either, but while he's already made a bit of a mark in the esports world, their newest player wants to make his mark on the franchise as well.
I'm happy to be on board and, go Rapids.
Sean Toll, Denver7.
Clearly, Nick, video games have changed a lot over the years, and there's no question they will continue to evolve over time.
Yeah, man, you got me kind of thinking over here. Maybe it's time to tell my mom that playing video games could lead to a lucrative career, and maybe, just maybe, she'll feel a little guilty for telling me to stop playing all those years ago. And hey, man,
that's a good point.
Your kids could get into it too. Maybe you should encourage them to play some games.
I like that. I like that a lot. I'll do that. In the meantime, I'm going to go find a Nintendo gaming system or an Atari. That's more my speed, but definitely a bright future for many of these gamers. Thank you for joining us.